Hello everyone, Sawyer here, and it's Christmas Eve, so have a Merry Christmas everybody, and I hope you guys got some cool gifts, or spend some family time with people you don't get to spend time with, which would be your family. Um, even though I'm recording this on Christmas Eve, you guys probably won't see it for like almost a whole week or two, because I have like 5 videos in my queue right now to put out, and I usually put out like 1 video of this nature per day, so that means that, if I'm doing my math right, or unless I just decide to break my rule, I'm gonna you won't see this for about 5-6 days. Anyway, with that being said, let's get into some books. It's not really a big pile today, so it should be quick. Depends how much I want to talk about shit. But here we have Cecil and Beanie number 414. This is beat to hell, but it's a really cool, kind of unique, older book. This was a popular like kids kind of cartoon, or well, it was actually a puppet show. It was kind of a cool kids puppet show back in the 50s, and about this little kid, and he was on a tugboat with his captain, and they had a pet sea monster. And they would go around and have Avengers. It was very much kind of like a DuckTales sort of thing. Yeah, so that's cool. Then we have this issue of X-Men. Join the Uncanny X-Men #1. I don't know if that's the full title. I don't know if it's just Uncanny X-Men or Join the anyway. Only reason I want to talk about this issue is because I really like the cover. I really like the costume redesign for Cyclops here. People try to redesign these costumes all the time for different characters. And 9 out of 10 times, I'm not a fan of what they come up with. I don't know if I'm just biased and I really like the original old school costumes, or if just artists don't know how to draw costumes anymore. I don't know what the deal is, but I typically don't really care for redesigns. This one I actually do like, because as much as I like the 90s, as much as I like the kind of classic 90s, wavy brunette hair, Cyclops look, I really do enjoy Cyclops when he has like a full face mask, like his whole head's covered. And I like the idea that the X is the visor. That's kind of cool to me. I think that's kind of interesting. And I like Cyclops. Most people don't care about. Most people hate Cyclops. I don't really understand why there's so much hate for Cyclops. He really does seem to be a very hated character in the comic books, and I don't understand why. I enjoy the character. I've always liked him. I've always liked him as he's kind of like the stoic, leader that kind of has to always make the hard calls and stuff. I like the character. Who I don't like, who I feel is incredibly overrated, and you guys are probably all going to come to my house and kill me when I say this, but Wolverine is extremely overrated, and it makes me mad every time I watch an X-Men movie and they have to shoehorn Wolverine into it so much. Like, yeah, he's part of the X-Men, that's fine, he's in the movie, it's cool, but why does the movie have to be almost completely centered around him? That's what they do with most of these movies. They usually make it all about Wolverine. It's like it's basically kind of like instead of calling it X-Men, you can just call all these movies Wolverine, His Amazing Friends, and I feel like that would be more accurate of a title. But anyway, enough with that Wolverine rant. We have this kind of interesting little comic, Strange Sports Stories. This is published by Vertical. Kind of a new book. Looks like it's it was made in 2015. There we go. So yeah, it looks like a pretty new book. I like the idea. It looks like they're kind of going for a retro kind of look from the old 70s sports anthology books. Because you used to have a lot of those back in the day. You used to have these sports books that were like basically like they would showcase future sports or just weird stories that were like had some kind of supernatural or sci-fi element to it, but were still sports stories. So that looks like what this is. It looks like this is literally just kind of rehashing that idea. And it's got some kind of cool little taglines for different stories. Skate or die, hot guys and hot water. Ricocheting for a Frankenstein. Just some silly things. So, yeah. Then we have this kind of cool little Guardians team up. Cool little Silver Surfer Groot cover. That's a pairing I don't think I would ever thought about. Silver Surfer and Groot. Like, really? It's an interesting pairing to me. It's kind of a cool cover. I like the idea that I like how the cover is kind of like the characters are right here and kind of like in the side, and the rest of the cover is just a whole bunch of planet and stuff. It just seems it's an interesting positioning there. You know, it kind of reminds me of that new Seth MacFarlane Star Trek parody show, whatever it's called, and they have that part in the first episode where he's he's telling the bad guy that's helling him on the computer. He's like, "Hey, can you just move a little bit, like just a little bit to the middle?" Yeah, thanks. You were just a little weird proportion there. That kind of reminds me of that where they're not really using the cover to the full advantage, but it still looks cool. I think it's a cool effect. Next up, we have this Warlord, number 130. Warlord, I don't really know much about Warlord, but I do know that he got kind of popular like in the mid-crisis or the post-crisis on Infinite Earths thing time period, and I know it's kind of like think of it kind of like Conan a Barbarian, but it's set like in the future, like in or it's set like in a more futurific setting. Because as you can see, he's got the barbarian look going on with the armor and the sword, but he's also got a gun holster on his belt, so they do have some kind of technology. But I do know it was a pretty cherished franchise in the day. I don't think it never really picked up ever after that. But, yeah. Then we have Savage Hawkman number 2. This is part of the New 52 lineup. Pretty cool cover. A lot of these Savage Hawkmans had really cool covers. Really nice art, cover art. I don't really know what the internal art looks like, but then we have this Action Comics Weekly number 604, Showdown for Wild Dog. I want to say this is Wild Dog's first appearance. If it's not, it's one of his very early appearances. Because before he had his own miniseries and all that, he used to pop up in Adventure Comics or Action Comics or whatever. So yeah, I think I want to say this might be his first appearance. I don't know. I mean, it's not really. I'm sure it's not worth anything, but yeah, he is becoming more mainstream than he ever was before. So I don't know. Next up, we have Avengers and Invaders. This is kind of like this is a sketchbook basically. It's just kind of like I think it's a freebie that they had a while back in my shop. I don't really understand why it has Dynamic Comics as co-publisher or whatever. Because I don't see any Dynamic Comics characters on here. Unless it's just because maybe it's because there's artwork by Alex Ross or something, and Alex Ross is like a founder of Dynamic, and maybe that was like part of the deal. Is like, hey, I'll draw your comic book, but you gotta pay me. Plus, you gotta put my company's brand on your book to help sell my company. I don't know. But then we have Lucas Stan, number 1 of 6. This is from Boom Studios. I forgot to mention the most important part. It's Kurt Schutter's Lucas Stan. And that actually is the reason why I bought this book, and I'm not sure that's the reason why everybody buys this book on surface level, is because it has Kurt Schutter's name stuck on it. For you guys that don't know, Kurt Schutter is pretty much the creator of I almost said The Walking Dead, but he's the creator of Sons of Anarchy, and he's worked on some other shows, but Sons of Anarchy is pretty much his claim to fame. It was a really breakout show that had some really interesting stuff going on, and he's the main writer or the producer and all that. And yeah, so he after a couple seasons, he was a household name in the TV world. So to see him write a comic book is kind of interesting. And he has done. I think he has done other stuff because, well, Boom Comics also publishes a Sons of Anarchy comic book, a licensed Sons of Anarchy comic book. So I'm assuming Kurt Schroeder just has some kind of connection with them or whatever. But this is a standalone story that has nothing to do with Sons of Anarchy that Kurt Schroeder wrote. It's really kind of interesting because it's actually like not in his usual wheelhouse of what he would write about. Usually Schroeder writes very like realistic, gritty kind of stuff, and this is very gritty, but it's also not very realistic because it's basically I don't want to get too much into it because pretty much most of the main story kind of gives away like the surprises of the book. But it's basically about a guy who's had a kind of a shady past, like in the military and stuff, and he gets kind of pulled into this, this war between heaven and hell, and he has to make some decisions on the spur of the moment, and some judgment calls that have some big drawbacks, and it's just an interesting story that kind of deals with heaven and hell, supernatural stuff. There's also some time travel elements thrown in. Just really interesting. I actually like it. I thought it was a good story, but yeah. And then we have this kind of old Moon Knight issue, number 37. This is from. Does it say the year on this? It looks like it's late 80s, maybe 90s. I don't know. Yeah, what is 1984? Is that what that says? Anyway, cool, kind of a cool Moon Knight cover. You know, I'm not really into Moon Knight all that much, but I know there's a huge fan base for the character. I know he is pretty popular. He's actually popular enough that I'm surprised they haven't made a movie yet. I'm really surprised that hasn't happened. Now, next up we have this kind of just generic throwaway Fantastic Four issue from 2000s, whatever. Ultimate Fantastic Four #2. I'm not really a fan of Ultimate books. I don't really. I mean, some of this stuff is okay. Like some of the stuff that came up with in the Ultimate Avengers was cool. Like I think Ultimate Avengers, you know, can earn its place in the comic book world just for having that one little side storyline where where Ant-Man's beating up his wife, and then he goes to drink it off at a bar, and then Captain America finds out, and Captain America basically picks a fight with him in the bar, and and I think it's something like it's Giant Man actually, and Giant Man's something like he's like, you ain't nothing, man. I could if you don't have that shield, I could whoop your ass. So then they basically get into a fight. Captain America just doesn't use his shield. Giant Man uses all his powers, turns giant size, and Captain America still whoops his ass and still makes a point. And he basically tells him like, don't ever mess with your wife, don't ever hit her again. It's just it was a cool storyline. I enjoyed it. Yeah, it's just one of those many moments that makes Captain America a total badass. Then we have this kind of this Civil War 2 tie-in, Squadron Supreme #10. Kind of cool cover. I don't know if this is main continuity or not, because I mean, for the longest time, Squadron Supreme was outside of the traditional Marvel universe, but they might be part of it now or something. I don't know. But yeah, Squadron Supreme is pretty cool because Squadron Supreme originally, now I think I might have talked about this in a video before, but originally the Squadron Supreme back in the 80s was a 12-issue miniseries that was kind of like Marvel's. I don't know which one actually came first, but it was kind of like Marvel's version of Watchmen. Yeah, it was kind of like a Watchmen light a little bit. It wasn't quite as sorry, I had to check my phone there. It wasn't quite as dark, it wasn't nearly as as revealing or whatever, as Watchmen. But in terms of like the actual story, it was pretty similar. It's basically a story about a group of superheroes, that fighting the good fight, and after years, years pass, and they realize that nothing's really changing. They're not making a difference. The wars are happening and all this, and they decide they lose their way, and they kind of slowly become this dictatorship, kind of taking over America and other countries, and they even go as far to like imprison villains and put like little they put little things on them to like basically to erase their minds, or not erase their minds, but basically make them compliant. They turn them into like mindless little slaves, kind of break their will. It just it's one of those things where the heroes are just breaking all the rules for what they think it might be a good reason, but in the end it's really not. And if I remember right, one of the main characters in the team, he realizes that this is wrong, and he starts kind of breaking away, and he makes himself a little resistance out of a bunch of villains and some other members of the team that don't want to do this. And that was Nighthawk, I think. Is that his name, Nighthawk? I think this is his name, Nighthawk. But yeah, and he's cool because he's like the Squadron Supreme was basically all DC kind of ripoffs. Like it was basically Marvel. It was basically Marvel just making their own versions of DC, famous Justice League members, and then putting them in an alternate pocket universe where they're all like evil. So that's kind of cool. So Nighthawk is basically like the Batman. He's the Batman of the storyline, and it's kind of cool because the secret identity is the President of the United States of America, which is interesting because what other superhero is actually the President of the United States of America? And realistically, how the hell can you be a superhero and be the president? Like how? Like how would you be able to go out at night in costume, beat up bad guys, and no one notices you gone? Like, doesn't the president have like 24-hour security around him, like outside his house and shit? I mean, I never really understood that, but it's cool. It's still a cool idea. Then the last book I want to talk about is this pretty old little Avengers issue. It's beat up. You know what I mean? It's got kind of a whole chunk of the cover missing, but it's cool. I like it. Number 82. You kind of got the one of the classic lineups here. Black Panther, Captain America, Quicksilver, and you got Daredevil. Daredevil is not traditionally a member of the Avengers, but he's guest starring in this issue, so that's kind of cool. Yeah. And yeah, that's all I got for this issue, guys. Thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for more videos.